Hello, boys and girls of YouTube. Today we're going to talk supercharger and kind of my review, comparison, why I went with what I went with. I know in this day and age it's all about a turbo, and that's definitely the way to go. An LS with single turbo, twin turbo, can't beat them. But back in the day, it used to be about boost with a supercharger. Now, this particular one is a 192. That's the size of the blower. It's from a company called The Blower Shop. The most common nowadays, you'll see the Wyand. There's two sizes, 144 and 177. Now, the real reason why I went with this one, because it is the biggest, smallest, under the hood type blower you can get. Now, technically it is size-wise bigger than the Wyand, but actually does sit a little lower than the Wyand. And the way they achieve that is they move the front of the blower forward, but at the same time they go around the other side. They had to relocate the water neck. Let's see without getting too many shadows. And in a previous video I talked about what kind of challenges that ran into with my alternator. And this particular setup is for a short water pump. So the blower shop does make this blower for a long water pump. I chose to go with the short water pump because the snout is obviously longer on the one for the long water pump, and I felt it would have too much pressure on the bearings that are in there. So I went with the shorter one. But that did bring a challenge because the alternator, you have to kind of try to mount it on the passenger side, and there's not a lot of brackets to do that to make it work appropriately, so I had to kind of get something to work myself, and I do have a previous video kind of going over that, so I won't really focus too much on that. But let's get back to the blower. Now, the review part of this really pertains to my experience putting it on this particular motor. There were two issues that I'll go over in a minute, but honestly, the big advantage of a supercharger in general really is that it's a very simple bolt-on. I mean, with a turbocharger, you have to worry about plumbing it, hot side, cold side, making it fit. The only fitment problem you always have with these is obviously hood clearance, hence big hole. But at the end of the day, I think it's just an easier setup if you're not trying to make enough boost to blow up the world. So this particular one, in the form it's at now, with that particular size pulley and this head and motor combination, I should have 7 pounds of boost. But this is where I'm going to run on the street. I do a race called Drag Week, and you actually have to run the car on the street from track to track, racing five tracks in 5 days. So when I race on the track, I actually do have a smaller pulley because that'll spin the blower a little faster. That'll make a whopping 2 more pounds of boost, so it'll be 9 pounds, which should be hopefully in the vicinity, all said and done, of somewhere 650 horsepower with this. But we'll see. I've yet to really do a full pass on this motor, so the nitrous is a little added bonus, but I really have that on there to cool the blower down. When you're spinning a blower that fast, it definitely creates a lot of heat, and heat in the air going into the combustion chamber is not your friend. You definitely want a cooler. So technically right now I have only a 50 shot, smallest I can get in there. that will hopefully cool the air down a little bit at higher RPM. But the two problems I ran into with this particular blower, the manifold itself for the front water crossover passages, the manifold, they were actually very big. And when I first put it on, I didn't realize that the gasket had slipped, because I actually put the gasket, aligned it to the cylinder head opposed to the manifold. So when I put the manifold down, it slid a little bit, and it actually created a gap where, when I was trying to fill up the radiator, the water was just trickling down into the oil. And I kept filling and filling, and finally realized, hey, something's not sealing. So I had to rip that all apart, and it seals, just you have to definitely align the gasket to the manifold. Definitely, you know, RTV in place around the water passages, and then you will not have a problem. Then the other area I had was with the idler pulley. The bolt that went through it, you can see that there, actually was not threaded as far as it should have been, because it goes into, obviously, the arm right here, and it's kind of supposed to stop where it aligns the pulley itself appropriately. But this one, it definitely did not have enough thread to do that. So what I had to actually do is just put a washer to make up the space, and it seemed to work fine. Actually gave me the right alignment, so this way the pulley would track true to the belt. And actually that washer is actually a lug nut washer I had laying around, but it worked well. Other than that, this the finish is amazing on this particular blower. I haven't seen too many reviews of this. I haven't seen too many of them, you know, looking around YouTube. There is one guy that did a unboxing video that was really pretty good. He's got an El Camino. I think he's got it into the 11s now. Hopefully, with this setup and running the smaller pulley, and hopefully without the nitrous, actually, probably on pump gas, on race gas, hopefully I'll be in the 10 somewhere. That's the goal. If I really had to, the motor, the bottom end is actually built to withstand more boost technically, and definitely more nitrous if I wanted to. I probably won't do that, because originally I was thinking about a ProCharger. That's actually, if you really wanted to do something with boost, and you don't want to do turbocharger, ProCharger is probably really the way to go. I'm just very old school, and I do like the way this looks. So I went with this. And again, the race I do, Drag Week, it has a class called Street Eliminator. You can't go any faster than 10 seconds, so there was no real reason to spend the extra money on that type of supercharger. So I just went with this. Honestly, at the end of the day, probably only cost me $1,000 less, but hey, that's the fuel injection. So with that, I got that. So if you have any questions regarding this blower, I'd be more than happy to answer them. So, send me a comment. But it's definitely worth it. It's about the same price as a wine in the polished version. So if you got a satin wine, you'll definitely spend less. But dollar for dollar, I think this is your better choice. So it's definitely a little known, lesser known than the wine. But in my opinion, I think this is if you're going to go with a root style blower and want to try to keep it under the hood, if you have a vehicle that actually has a taller hood, this is the way to go. So talk to you later. If you like the video,